Welcome to the Natural Genius podcast. We're here to help you tap into your natural genius. Let's go. I feel very, very lucky to know Pete Spence. He is a very dear friend. His background is in high performance in cricket and is curious about so many different applications of high performance, from sailing to ballet to all different kinds of sports to art to keep going, ... What I love about Pete is that he hasn't lost that fascination around the topic. We'll end up by talking a lot about that, I'm sure, and there's many other aspects of Pete. One of the aspects I really appreciate is how much of a gentleman he is. I also think he's an exceptional communicator, oftentimes being very respectful, and I think that shows in when I first met Pete. One of the stories I heard about him was that there was somebody very senior in business that I knew of, and Pete Spence was the only phone call that they would receive. I thought that is such a showcase of Pete as the person that he is. I'm sure, being a very humble man, he would be very embarrassed to hear me talking about this. But it is with a great delight that we have this conversation to share with you the incredible Pete Spence and the multifaceted, impressive human that he is. Hi, Pete Spence. Welcome to the Natural Genius podcast. I wanted to get into a few different topics, and given that we've known each other for many years now, the first one that came to mind was that you've been in a lot of high performance environments. And I wonder, what is your biggest tip that you find yourself giving to regularly enough to high performers or people that you come across?
Oh, gee, I think that's a good question, Sam. I think the basic tip is that in order to do anything well in this life, you've got to be able to go inside. That's sort of a shift, an inward shift of consciousness. And I think that's something that a lot of people miss out on. But the good performers in anything, whether it's in sport or the arts or in academia or business, the good performers can go inside. They can get inside themselves and be lost in themselves, really, and be able to attack things in a way that enables them to express the talents that they have. Too many of us waste our talents. We don't discover our talents. So I think the key thing is being able to get inside, to be able to be mindful, and accept that there is a spiritual aspect in life. And once you do that, then I think all things can unfold.
Oh, so beautifully said, Pete. I think in a previous conversation, you and I talked about, was it the 95 mile an hour, thought zone? And I just thought what you just described then seemed so on point with what you'd said in that conversation. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? I remember you talking about, and also the time period that it was in.
Yeah. The 95 mile an hour relates to Shawn Green, who is a former Major League baseballer, a batter, who was extraordinary, had a long career, very, very successful. And he wrote a book entitled The Way of Baseball, Finding Stillness at 95 miles an hour. Now, 95 miles an hour equates to what was then the high-speed pitch, the fast ball pitches in baseball at that stage. And he was able to find stillness at 95 mile an hour. Now, 95 mile an hour in cricket terms relates to the 150 kilometres an hour of the high-speed bowlers. So in cricket and baseball, tennis and other high-speed ball sports, there are real demands that a lot of people miss out on. A lot of people aren't introduced to ways to focus, ways to become still so that they can express what they're truly capable of. Too many of us just don't do it. just don't get to do it. So
Yeah.
my challenge has been to try to find ways to engage with players and with people so that they become more aware of accessing their own inner talents. And that's where I think this relates so well to your concept of natural genius, which is, I think it's the same as talking about Shawn Green. Also talking about Adam Gilchrist, the wicketkeeper batsman, very successful player for Australia. His concepts were very much on the same line of no thought. Yeah, if he was going out to bat and thinking about what he was doing, the chances of success were less than if he could obliterate things and just go out with an open mind. And he said after he scored 128 off 98 balls against New Zealand in a test, he said, it's amazing what you can do when your mind is free. So being able to free the mind up and being able to access the mindful state is, I think, the key to a fulfilled life.
Oh gosh, Pete, you say such wonderful words. When I looked at your bio, I was reflecting, it was obvious that you became a pretty senior person when you were about 25. That open-mindedness and freeing the mind, is that something that you were already sort of alert to early in your career? Is that one of the sort of success points for you in terms of that's how you naturally were, and so that possibly gave you advantages? Or is that because your career you saw a lot of different high performers and you connected it?
Yeah, I think, Sam, I had the 25-year-old, that was my being appointed as state coach, cricket coach in New South Wales.
Yes.
Which, was probably, it was a bit early, but I think it just highlighted the fact that cricket was looking for a better way or a new way, looking to examine different ways, and I fitted the bill at that stage. But there are so many different things you can learn. I find, whilst I was working in cricket, I was always looking outside. I, spent a lot of time with Jack Gibson, the rugby league coach, who was just a font of wisdom, and I continued to look at other sports and other, like the Australian Ballet School. When I was at the Victorian Institute of Sport, we had a very close relationship with them, and our coaches and athletes learnt a lot from the ways of ballet. And I think in some ways ballet was open enough to pick up some of the gems from gymnastics and other key sports. So sharing of information is so vital, I think.
Yeah, and exposing people to different approaches, especially across high performance. And that reminds me of when we both worked together on the initiative that you were so amazing at directing called the Creative Performance Exchange, and to see disparate topics come together across art and sport and science and all different topics, and to bring them in together. And that meetup was at the start of the day every 6 or 8 weeks, wasn't it, Pete?
Yeah,
it brought the most interesting people together. I always thought when those people headed back to their office for the day, zinging with energy from something new that they'd picked up, I always thought that it was such a great outcome from that initiative.
Yeah, and let's be fair there, Sam, you played a key role with that group. You had a long association with the organising group, and that made a difference, as did Pete Williams. I think Pete Williams is a guy who just stands out in my lifetime as being an open and creative individual. And of course, Pete was and is a Buddhist, so he's steeped in the mindful capacities. He's cracked it, I think. He found early in life the ways to find better ways to move forward, ways to share ideas, and ways to do things better. Because too often we're limited to the past, where we just continue to do what we're expected to do rather than what we're capable of doing.
Yeah, well said. Yeah, Pete Spence and so many other people I met through Creative Performance Exchange have become great friends and people to be inspired by. It's yeah, you very much helped me, Pete, to
Uh,
understand
hey,
around a lot of different topics
Sam,
and how they work well together.
we helped each other. We opened doors. I think right across the board. It was the openness of that group that really inspired me and inspired us all, I think. But there are so many gems out there, so many things that we can do better, as long as we're prepared to be open and get away from what is considered to be the ways of the past.
Yeah. And Pete, do you remember at the sort of inception of that idea, what drove you behind, what was behind that? Like, was it that real desire to help to open minds, or was it that you were seeing people, similar sort of people that had that kind of desire?
Yeah, I think right throughout my career, when I went into cricket as a coach when I was 25, I became well aware of the fact that there wasn't a lot coming out of the game in terms of innovation and finding better ways. And that's where I continued to look outside and go to other sports and other disciplines. And I think that's something I've to do throughout my life. And I find that people, once they open up, they say, "Wow, this is so good. Why haven't we been doing this?" But I think as human beings, we're creatures of habit, and too often we stick with the expectations of the past and stick with objectivity rather than getting into subjectivity and creativity, which is so important. As human beings, we've got to discover these ways if we're going to have fulfilled lives and fulfilling lives. So that's just the sharing of ideas is so vital. And Sam, you've done that all your life, as long as I've known you. You've been an inspiration in the way you look at things and the way you're prepared to create and open your mind.
Oh,
It
Pete, you're
leads the
so
way.
kind.
No,
There's you're reminding me of working with Hamish Curry on the
oh,
Do
yeah,
lectures, and
yeah,
I think it relates to creative performance exchange as well. And I want to ask you a question from this. So when we were doing Do lectures, we were curating, sorry, a lot of creating as
yeah,
well,
yeah,
the speakers, and I can't remember. This is the way with me and Hamish when we collaborate. We can't always remember whose idea it was, which is actually not the point. We had 18 out of the 20 speakers that we chose in advance,
yeah,
and there was kind of Hamish helped to kind of uh, let us come up with the first few, and then see who says yes. See who accepted the invitations, and then we sent another round. So, as organisers and I call myself a recovering project manager, but as that like recovering over planner, I probably should say, it was so interesting to have that experience of choosing out of the 20. So we sent out the first 5 invites of real naturals that we definitely wanted to have in that experience, and then we would wait and then we'd send more, and so it was this rolling invites. What I was going to say to you is the last 2 people weren't invited until the last 2 weeks before the event. You can imagine, as marketers and event organisers, we were like, no, we need those 2 extra to be able to then promote the idea. But what we found is that brought this dynamic energy. It was 2 people at least that were invited last minute that had to quickly say yes to a pretty big ask
yeah.
and develop the talk of their life and do other things. With Creative Performance Exchange, I sort of remember that there was this list of future topics. I don't know whether the list was that long, Pete. Like it might have been 8 long or 10 long or something like that. Did you have a similar sort of approach to what I just described with Men Hamish, in that you left room for something spontaneously to come out?
Yeah, I think that spontaneity is the key issue, and I'd refer to it as self-organisation. which is a key quantum principle.
Yes.
And that's where you let ideas evolve, let the group determine. It's group think, I guess, and power of teams, and I think that's the way forward, to open up and encourage sharing and encourage different ideas. And you never know what's going to happen. You never know what'll transpire. But we're conditioned in Western society to be more controlled and to plan things, and we ultimately realise that we can't fully plan things. We can direct things in certain directions, but if we let those directions evolve and develop, then that's when the magic happens. And I think that's with CPX, that was just a fun environment, because everybody seemed to have that sort of attitude, and I think they found it refreshing. And I certainly do. I loved that time. That time at Deloitte's with Pete Williams facilitating opportunities for us was just remarkable. But that's the way life should be. We should live it that way. Yeah.
And I can't remember how long it was, Pete. Was it about 6 or 8 years that CPX was going? It felt like it was really quite impressive, both that Deloitte partnered to organise the venue and food and things like that, and also that there was that desire for people to get up early and come to this event as well.
Yeah. And Pete, I think, was well aware and encouraged that self-organising concept, the idea of enabling the group to sow seeds and to let things evolve and get away from control. And I think that's the important thing, to enable things to become what they're capable of.
Well said, Pete. And tell me, I think this is already in this conversation, it feels like you've demonstrated what I'm going to ask you about. You are a person that so often lifts me and others up. Do you have is it a nature or nurture thing? Do you think that you were surrounded by people that lifted others up, or do you think that this is a inner grace that Pete Spence has? I know that you're a humble person. It might be hard to answer that.
No, not at all. I think it's a nature and a nurture thing.
Do you?
I think you've got to have the feeling within that you want to help others and you want to find better ways. But then it's a matter of getting people online and they're then continuing to encourage the group and getting away from the control mentality. I think the words that get in our way in our life are linearity, just linear movements, and also control. And I think if we can adopt more non-linear attitudes and free things up, free the control, then we can all live much more fulfilling lives, and the world can be a happier place. And ultimately, that's what we should be striving to do. And we're surrounded by so much doer and damaging stuff at the moment. There's a real time, I think, for more of this openness and sharing and optimism and creativity.
Yeah, beautifully said, Pete. I was talking to a friend the other day, and we were actually Eddie Harron, who I'm hoping to eventually come on here. And we were talking about this concept of micro agility, and it came from the two of us working with AI agents and pondering what's coming. And some of the time it feels like there can be so much information and so many plans and so many suggestions that come through from AI agents, such as GPT or Grok or others that Gemini, others that people are using. And so that you can be swamped with information.
Yeah.
and you can just come up with plans and plans and plans and lots of them. And the two of us were conversing around possibly we're heading into that real, you can only plan a certain amount of time, especially because so much of the world's information real time is going into those agents. So constantly connections are being made by these big computing machines, networks. And yeah, it really had me ponder, has AI arrived right now so that we can actually get more into that, like, dare I say it, because it can be confronting for a lot of people, but lose the control a little bit, plan a bit less, and see what's occurring in the moment more.
Yeah, as long as we don't transfer the control to AI and we become controlled. You know, I had a great conversation with Graham Winter. Graham Winter is a very successful sports psychologist, has been the Australian Olympic lead sports psychologist at a number of Olympic Games.
Wow.
But Graham talked to me about the stuff he was doing with AI. But he said you've got to be careful. You've got to prescribe what you want. You've got to direct it.
Yes.
So that you don't relinquish that control. And he wasn't talking in control tones at all. But he was just aware of the whole thing being flipped if he wasn't careful. And you know, he seems to have integrated AI so very skillfully into his operations in business and in sport.
Wow, that's impressive. And Pete, I do always the optimist, a tech optimist. I do sense that the more, in my experience, the more I use AI, the more I refine my directorship, my ability to be able to direct. So I think that naturally, and I saw this with social media. I remember when I was, lucky enough to be involved early on, so teaching people about it. And people would be, even conversations in social gatherings, people would hear that that's the sort of work that I did, and they were always like, oh, I can't stand it, I don't want to use it, and there was like real fear around, often as there is with technology that's new. And I noticed it was so funny because some people were like, I can't believe you're sharing photos online about your life. And at that stage, you know, people had their opinions about me sharing photos of food or me sharing photos about whatever in life. And to this day, I'm pretty comfortable that I shared enough to be comfortable.
Yeah.
But I didn't share photos, like, for example, of family members, especially young ones, shared their face, because I thought that's for them to decide if they want to do that. And then fast forward 10 years, so that might have been sort of the 2006 to 2010 era kind of thing. Fast forward to 10 years or so, and friends were sharing everything. And I was like, oh, I don't think I could share that much detail. And similar friends that were saying, oh, I can't believe you're sharing your life. So the example there for me is that people get more and more familiar and more comfortable with the technology. With AI, I think we're at that 2006 point with social media where everyone is sort of, not everyone, but some people are really scared, and for good reason. We've had Hollywood and other stories around us that are about dystopia and about the machines taking over. I love spotting these little nuances, like we talked about with micro agility, and also directorship, like strengthening personal directorship to be able to still go, yeah, that's fine what you've delivered to me, and also I need this now. Yep. So I that gives me both hope, but it also sort of softens a bit, because I think sometimes people can get overly concerned about technology, and there's the privacy concerns, and there's a lot of aspects that I'm aware of, that there's always light and dark in things.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting to hear about Graham Winter's clever around integration, both personally and professionally.
Yeah, he's very smart. I think the way he's engaged with AI, impresses me. Yeah.
And I dare say we're both in interesting social conversations these days about AI. This moment is about your natural genius. If there's a spark within you that wants to develop a lighter way, a clearer signal to achieve more, I'd like to work with you one-on-one. If you're after inspired direction in what you have to give, get in touch with me via our website, naturalgenius.com.au. Now back to the natural genius. I've got a good one for you, Pete. Are you ready for this question?
Yeah, I'm ready.
How does joy play a role in high performance? Because I believe that you're a person that spreads joy very effortlessly.
Yeah. I think joy is essential. Joy and satisfaction, and being prepared to get out of your head and into your body, I think, is the key thing. Because for too much of our lives, where we get lost in our mind, we get lost in thought, and we overanalyze things, and you get that paralysis through analysis. So engaging joyfully is vital. And I think this enables individuals to be satisfied with what they're doing, and also to be able to detach from the magnitude of the current life and the current pressures, and go back into themselves and just be happy being an individual, and becoming aware of what a miracle life is. That we're capable of so much, and there's so much happening, so much is self-organised in our body and in our world, that if we can establish joy and relax and just detach, then the true self comes forth. Otherwise, we're just doing a carbon copy of what's expected, and that's never joyful.
No, exactly. And you mentioned satisfaction too, Pete. I didn't expect you to have that in the conversation. Tell me more.
I think personal satisfaction is central to everything, and then satisfaction as a group in team sports and in business and so on is just so critical. If you're not satisfied, and too many people are dissatisfied, too many people are angry. There's too much anger in the world. I think we need to just fall back into our bodies and just establish joy as the foundation of life, so that we can then be satisfied with what we're doing, and we can then start to achieve the amazing things that we're all capable of. And that's getting back to natural genius. that is the capacity that we should be striving for, because we've all got natural genius inside, but most of us don't fulfill it. We don't fulfill that natural genius because we've got blocks up, and we've been criticised, and we're pushed into directions that we don't really want to go, or we know are unproductive. And joy, I think, is just central to fulfilment and achievement.
Yeah, Pete, I what was coming to mind as you were saying that was appreciation as well.
Oh,
I
yeah.
know that there's so much around gratitude practices and appreciation, and I jokingly say that my beautiful auntie gave me my PhD in care and thoughtfulness and kindness. And spending time with her, she was always so appreciative.
Yeah.
And so she built this bubble around her of people, anyone she'd come into contact with, often she would chortle away to and have a good old chat, and would just really recognise people and appreciate just little things that they were doing, whether it was somebody working on checkout at a supermarket or somebody at the local cafe, she would always be so deeply appreciative of the actions that they took.
Yeah.
And I just saw people blossom around her and then want to help her.
Yeah.
And it was just such a natural for her to be able to do that. And so I think also this idea about natural genius, it feels a complete pleasure to be talking about, Pete, partly because there's still part of me that believes that without effort, some of that genius will come out, or some of that natural ability will come out. You can't stop it. You can't stop that life force coming out. You can be knocked down. There's things that can happen. Essences of that unique individual is always going to come out.
Yeah. It'll come out naturally, but to really come out with a rush,
That's what we like.
It's got to be facilitated by a really balanced existence, and it's got to be encouraged. You've got to encourage it, but the best way to encourage it, I think, is to be mindful and to get away from the thought, get into that no thought, and that's the Shawn Green and the Adam Gilchrist. Just what people are capable of. Gilchrist amazed me when we were coaching at the cricket academy. We used to try to prepare the players for the high speed bowling, because that can be the terrifying stuff. It can be very dangerous too. It's a tough situation. So we use tennis balls with high speed pitching machines on basketball court surfaces, so shiny surfaces, and the ball would be pitched at the batter. Yes. And the speed is just incredible. And we used to call it neurological conditioning the nervous system to handle this extreme pressure. Adam Gilchrist came in to experience this, and we set it up as an evasion activity, where you had to stop yourself from being hit. You had to get out of the way of it. And he got out of the way, he swayed and he ducked and waved. And then he just pulled the ball, just whack, off his nose, basically, out of the middle of the bat at that speed.
Whoa.
And I shook my head and I thought, oh, lucky contact. Next ball, he's done the same thing. Next ball, he's done the same thing. And then
fascinating.
The next ball, he's just swayed back and opened the face of the bat and glanced it up over his third man. So he was a guy who was just immersed in what he was doing, and he could just do it so effortlessly and so perfectly that nobody else could do.
Oh gosh, Pete, what a complete treat to
in that same session. I remember Justin Langer, who became a very successful Australian player and Australian coach. He came in and did the same thing. Now, he didn't get the hooking going, but in order to maximise the pressure, he advanced his batting position and went to where the ball was pitching. So he sort of halved the distance. So it would have been around 100 miles an hour. And he was up there playing and evading and doing what he needed to do under this extreme pressure. So the good ones find a way. Good people at anything, whether it's sport or the arts or business or whatever, they find a way of engaging themselves, and often it's mindfully getting away from the overthinking, taking thinking out.
Oh, Pete, thanks so much. What a story. It's so I remember when we went to see Cirque du Soleil in Melbourne one time, and we've got a group of people together. And I remember you talking about the exposure to their amazing acrobatics and another aspect and topic of high performance that you'd been across. And I remember seeing your glee about how impressive they were, and to have a career in high performance, you must have had many of those moments. I'm sure that there were other emotions around many experiences you had, but many of those moments of just awe and
Oh,
being
yeah.
able to see human feats.
Yeah.
Amazing.
When I was at VIS, we adopted Cirque du Soleil as our model, our high performance model.
Mm-hmm.
And when Honey and my wife and I
Mm.
were in Montreal, and we were invited into Cirque du Soleil and had a tour of their centre.
Facility. Yeah, right.
And, I was involved with Australian Institute of Sport and Victorian Institute of
Mm.
Sport and looking at high performance. But my being exposed to Cirque du Soleil was a real revelation. You could see the things that they were doing, and a lot of it was based on gymnastic principles and using gymnastic athletes, engaging gymnastic
Mm.
athletes. But, they just took things to another level. And once again, that's just the sharing of ideas, learning from
Mm.
other organisations, whether it be the Australian Ballet School or Cirque du
Mm.
Soleil. You've got to soak up what they offer and what they do and the extraordinary things that they do that they take as a matter of course because they're conditioned to it. But
Mm.
for us on the outside, it's magic.
Oh, well said. We're lucky to see those performances. And Pete, do you think that part of your success might have come from I always say you're one of the best communicators I know, and you're very gentlemanly in your respect and conduct. This was always going to be a mutual admiration session,
I
Pete.
know about this.
But tell me, do you think that genuine respect that you have for others has helped to open doors for you?
Oh, I think so. I think, a willingness to listen and to look for points of difference,
Mm.
because none of us has got a mortgage on ideas. We've got to find ideas from other and apply things from
Mm.
other areas. I think that's very, very important. Yeah, but I just make reference to in the coaching area, a
Mm.
lady called Debbie Muir.
Mm-hmm.
Debbie Muir was a famous Canadian synchronized swimming coach
Right.
who prepared world champions and Olympic champions for Canada.
Mm-hmm.
And she was appointed Australian head coach for the 2000 Olympics, which is a real revelation. I'd met Debbie in Canada and was always most impressed by her approaches. She talked about going full circle in her coaching life. She
Mm.
started life as a control coach who would design everything, design all the moves, design the music, do everything at the start of her career.
Sure.
And she developed world champions and Olympic champions, was globally successful.
Amazing.
To the end of her career, when she was still producing world champions and Olympic champions, but she changed her whole approach from
Yeah.
control to facilitation. So she would engage with the athletes and have the athletes contribute ideas on what they're going to do and how they'll do it. So the athletes ended up designing things with Debbie's facilitation. But I think that's a good model of where things can go. We get away from the all-knowing doctor or the all-knowing coach to that person who is prepared to put things out there and seek ideas and engage with people and help people to co-create their own life and their own performance. And it's easier to say, it rolls off the tongue okay, but I think it is so essential that we find ways to engage others, to enable others to have a fulfilling life through the expression of their own talents. Most of us don't realise the genius we've got inside, and that's got to be discovered and facilitated and promoted, and it can be done, and the good performers do it.
And listened to, Pete. I feel like a massive. What I just heard in you talking about Debbie was listening, being able to listen to the athletes and sense into when to. I love this word, sort of acupuncture. I remember thinking about a friend that sort of influenced so many people, and it's sort of like he would just do a little acupuncture point here and there of the different people that were in his orb, on his radar, and he would just tweak them a little bit, like give them a little bit to help them out, or give them a little bit to kind of make them feel slightly uncomfortable, and they would grow from that. So it's as a coach, I wonder if Debbie was just a real master at that, and yourself too, being able to kind of just sense into, be able to listen to people and also sense into when something needed to be said and what needed to be said, and often it's not too much. There's a podcaster, Rick Rubin, who I really enjoy listening to his podcasts, partly because as a music producer of the top world's best, up there with the world's best, he, in his podcast as an interviewer, he seems to ask a question, and not many of them, and be quiet and let the guests speak.
Yeah, it's really a matter of getting out of their way, isn't it? Getting out of their way and enabling them to express what they're capable of, and discovering what they're capable of. Yeah.
So, Pete, tell me, what amazing futures could you see at the moment? What sort of things are you noticing in the world that you're looking forward to seeing in the future? Maybe around high performance or anything else that you know.
Yeah, well, I think we're still a bit stuck. I think as human beings, we're still stuck in the mechanical worldview. We're far too mechanical in the way we approach things, the way we design things, plan things, test things, and that's not in the area of the natural genius. I think this whole natural genius concept is one that we can all benefit enormously from. But I think there's also a switch in there away from the mechanical worldview, away from the classical sciences of cause and effect, and more to the quantum principles of engagement and interrelationship. When we look at the human body is a miracle. And it self-organises. Like, as we're sitting here speaking and thinking, we're also breathing. We're also assimilating the breakfast that we had this morning. We're also moving. Our bones are supporting ourselves. Our immune system's constantly fighting disease and viruses and so on. And this all happens seamlessly, without thought. And I think that's the concept that I think is we've got to embrace. In business, they're embracing it, with the quantum leadership, and there's been, I've followed quite a bit of work from Dana Zoa and others on the application of new science principles. This really came up with Margaret Wheatley and the leadership in the new science, which I found to be just a revelation really, on how to think, getting away from the mechanical approach and engaging the quantum principles. Interesting, when I'd met Debbie Muir in Canada, but I met her again when she came to Melbourne, where the Australian synchronised swimming team that she was coaching were based at Melbourne Aquatic Centre.
Sure.
And they were working with us at the Victorian Institute of Sport. The first thing that Debbie said to me, she said, I just am guided by Margaret Wheatley. And she
Oh,
pulled out leadership in the new science.
how
So
fabulous.
she got so much out of that, as I have right throughout my life. But
Yeah.
I think the great pity is that there's not enough awareness of this, not enough preparedness to engage with the sorts of things that the new science principles really provide. If we think about it, we're comprised of trillions of cells in the human body, and those cells are constantly communicating with each other. You know, if we were to try to describe that using classical science, it'd take far too long just to try to describe, let alone to try to measure it. But if you apply quantum principles, then that happens in a heartbeat. And I think that's where, you know, there are some opportunities there that I think we're missing that could be applied, whether it be in sport or the arts or in business, so that we can be more effective in bringing this the natural genius out of ourselves and out of our organisations.
And Pete, is there any books or research papers or people to follow that you would recommend? Margaret Wheatley has always been a favourite, I think.
Oh, I love Margaret Wheatley. The Quantum Leader is a fantastic book. Another one dragged them out. Quantum Leadership: New Consciousness in Business by Frederick Chavalit Zoe and Chris Laszlo. I've found really refreshing. You know, that's applying all these principles that are there. That I think humanity can gain much more from our existence. I think we're shortchanging ourselves and not achieving what we're capable of. And that, coming back to natural genius, that's going to draw these things forward.
Thank goodness, Pete, you were in the elite sport so that you could actually see some of that come to fruition and help to enable it. I think that, you must have been able to support so many people improve on their abilities.
Yeah, well, everybody's got talent. And, you know, there were some enormously talented athletes and coaches in the systems at AIS and VIS. And that was very refreshing to be able to engage with them and just see what they were capable of and try to offer some sort of support.
Love that, Pete. A couple of final questions. I'll ask them at the same time and you can choose if you feel like answering.
Okay.
Any tips? I know that you, as a friend of yours, I feel like I get to see a beautiful retired life that you live where you're still contributing. Any tips for enjoyable life? And also, who do you suggest we meet with next?
Right, yeah. The tip would be to engage in life mindfully. I think mindfulness is so valuable for just our personal existence, but also for our being able to fulfil the talent, the enormous talent that each of us has, and most of us use it wastefully. To be mindful, I think, is an essential thing. A couple of great people in mindfulness, Dr. Elise Baillieu,
yes,
who runs Mindful in May, is a marvel, as is Professor Calvinda Shields, who's Professor of Economics at Melbourne University.
Yeah.
And she heads up Calm in the City and does some very good work with the Brahma Kumaris in the world, really. She's a citizen of the world. Another one would be Dr. Amy Saltzman, who's an American, a former gymnast and a medico, but she's developed a still, quiet place for teens, and she's written quite a lot of books about mindfulness in education. But a gem of hers is the one I've got in front of me, a still, quiet place for athletes. And I've done online courses with Amy, Dr. Amy.
Right, yeah.
And she is a real leader. She was one who tipped me into Shawn Green.
Fantastic.
So, Shawn Green, the baseball batter, had a mindful practice that he used with a batting tee. A batting tee is associated normally with children's baseball.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah. But he used it when he was a major league player. And he used to have a mindful practice. He'd mindfully pick the breaths, pick the ball up, another breath, place it on the tee, another breath, focus on the ball, and then another breath and swing away. And he applied that. That was how he developed his stillness at 95 miles an hour, which,
story.
Yeah, so Amy would be marvellous, I think.
Perfect, Pete. Thank you so much. I joke to a friend of mine, I say we could keep talking underwater forever, and I feel the same with you, Pete. There's always so many gems and riches in our conversation. Thank you so much for your time.
A pleasure. Thank you for your time. I've really enjoyed this, but best wishes with your natural genius. I think it's a great initiative and it's going to make a difference. Thank you, Sam.
Pete, you're so kind. Well, thank you for uplifting so many people and for all that you have done and the ripple effects you've created, and for that you still keep on learning. It's the way to be, hey. And as such, you can tell us about books like Amy's. I really appreciate that. Lots of love to you and Hunt.
You too, Sam. Thank you.
The new dog, Molly.
And Molly, yeah. Thank you, Sam.
Take good care, Pete.
Enjoyed it. Okay. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Natural Genius podcast. Please share this with anyone who came to mind and visit us at naturalgenius.com.au. Thanks so much.